I surprised my husband and his colleagues with a luxury team retreat I secretly funded. As I entered the room, he joked loudly, "Don't worry, guys, the company charity case is just passing through." One laughed, "She still thinks she's on our level." 3 months later, I became their new CEO. The applause was for me. I've been married to Bryant, 47 male, for 17 years. We live in Boston, have 2 teenage kids, 15 male and 12 female, and from the outside, we probably looked like a stable, upper-middle-class couple. House in Cambridge, weekend family outings, dinners with mutual friends, the whole 9 yards. But inside, things were off, and they had been for a while. I used to be a financial consultant, big clients, corporate restructuring, heavy strategic stuff. I worked insane hours through my 20s and 30s, and when I had my daughter at 32, I scaled back. Then after our second, I decided to step away entirely for a while. Bryant's job was stable, he was climbing the ladder at this marketing firm, and I had enough investments and side clients to feel like I wasn't completely out of the game. We agreed, he'd focus on work, I'd handle the home front. At least, that was the plan. Lately, Bryant had been distant. Short. Easily irritated. The kind of subtle coldness that doesn't show up in arguments, but in the way someone answers MMHM instead of "sounds good, babe." I asked if he was stressed about work, and he'd brush me off. "They're all idiots," he'd mutter sometimes about his coworkers. Morale is shot, no one wants to lead, and I'm stuck babysitting grown adults who can't pitch without a deck full of stock photos. I suggested maybe they needed some team-building time, maybe something to rebuild morale. He scoffed. They'd probably need a miracle. Or a lobotomy. So I started thinking. I still had a chunk of cash in a Fidelity account from a deal I closed years ago, money Bryant had never asked about, assuming it was my fund, or whatever. I never flaunted my earnings, mostly because he always reacted weirdly when I talked money. Not aggressive, but dismissive. "You love numbers," he'd say with a little smirk, "but you never really got the KLLer instinct, did you?" That stung more than I'd admitted at the time. Anyway, I figured I'd do something big. Something helpful. Something that might not only help his team, but maybe remind him that I wasn't just the house manager or school volunteer or charity case, as he sometimes jokingly called me when friends were around. So I planned a retreat. I found this incredible spot up in Woodstock, Vermont. Luxury cabins, organic meals, actual team-building workshops run by a woman I used to consult with. It cost a decent chunk, but I could afford it. I coordinated everything with his assistant, Mina, who adored the idea and helped keep it quiet. She told me, "This is seriously going to make him look like a rock star. The partners have been hinting they want to see leadership from him." I smiled. That's the idea. The retreat was booked for early October. The plan was they'd arrive on a Friday morning, and I'd pop in briefly after lunch to say hi, drop off some personalized gift bags I'd made for each team member, a mix of local chocolates, branded notebooks, and custom thank you cards, and then head to a spa about 15 minutes away. I didn't want to hover, just wanted to show some appreciation. I drove up early that morning, beat the group there, and handed everything to the resort staff so it'd be waiting in their rooms. By noon, they were checked in. I figured I'd swing by the meeting room just to peek in before leaving. That's where everything went to HLL. I opened the door gently, just enough to hear voices and laughter. They hadn't started the session yet, just standing around with coffees and pastries, shooting the breeze. And that's when I heard Bryant. Loud and clear. He was standing near the fireplace with 3 guys I didn't recognize and Mina. He held his cup up like he was making a toast. "Don't worry, guys," he said with this smug little grin. "The company charity case is just passing through." A man, tall, dark hair, glasses, laughed. "She still thinks she's on our level." The room burst into laughter. I stood frozen. Still partially behind the open door, just numb. I looked over at Mina, who saw me first. Her face went white. "Oh my God," she breathed. Bryant turned, saw me, and instantly, his expression dropped. He didn't look guilty, just irritated. "You weren't supposed to be here yet," he said, like I'd screwed something up. I didn't say a word. Not a single word. I backed out slowly, turned, walked to my car, and drove away. I made it 5 miles down the road before I pulled over and sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. Not quiet crying. Gut-wrenching, body shaking, animalistic sobs that wouldn't stop. This wasn't just a one-off joke. It was the way they laughed. The ease of it. Like it wasn't new. Like this was how they always talked about me. And Bryant? He hadn't even tried to defend me. I stayed with my sister in South Boston for a few days. Told the kids I needed a mental reset weekend. My sister, Tara, was ready to light Bryant's car on fire by the second night, but I told her to stay calm. I need to think, I said. And I did. About everything. About the years I spent behind the scenes, making sure Bryant had hot meals, clean shirts, a house that ran like a machine. About how I quietly coached him through every promotion pitch. About the mock interviews I did with him in our living room. About how I'd always kept my opinion soft, my voice even. I don't want to overshadow him, I used to say to Tara. And now I realized. I'd been shrinking for so long, I didn't recognize myself anymore. I went home Sunday night. The kids were fine, clueless, thank God. Bryant was there. He looked tense. We need to talk, he said. I sat down. He didn't apologize. Not really. I was just trying to be funny, he said. You took it the wrong way. You always do this. You're too sensitive. I stared at him. I paid for that retreat, I said quietly. Out of my own money. I booked the whole thing so your team could see what real leadership looks like. And that's how you talk about me. He didn't answer. He just ran his hand down his face and muttered, Jesus Christ, why did you even show up? That was it for me. I called a lawyer the next day. But I also made another call. To Carter Ellsworth. He was the founder of the very firm Bryant worked at. I had met him years ago at a Harvard alumni mixer, and we talked shop a few times since. I'd helped two of his former companies out of tough financial spots. He knew what I could do. Funny timing, he told me. We're looking at restructuring. Leadership shakeups. It's bad in there. He asked if I'd be interested in stepping back in. Not just as a consultant, but in a leadership role. I said yes. I didn't tell Bryant about the call with Carter. Not yet. I played it cool at home, polite, firm, quiet. He noticed. He kept trying to test the waters. You still upset? He asked one night, casually, while unloading the dishwasher. I didn't even look up from my laptop. Not really, I said. Just processing things. He took that as a win, I think. Men like Bryant always do. The truth was, I was done being angry. I was in motion. Something had cracked open inside me that night in Vermont, not just the hurt from what he said, but the realization that I'd been sidelining myself for years. That I'd become the woman who made space for everyone else and left none for herself. The woman in the shadows. And suddenly, I wasn't okay with that anymore. Over the next few weeks, Carter and I met several times, first virtually, then in person. The company, Pemberley plus Fox, was in worse shape than I thought. Leadership was fractured. Creative turnover was high. Clients had been dropping since June. Carter was done. He'd built the company from the ground up in the late 90s, but he was ready to step aside. He wanted someone strong, someone outside the toxic ecosystem to come in and clean house. Someone who could lead without playing politics. I've been watching you for a long time, he said over lunch at Harvest in Cambridge. You didn't step back from the game, you just played a longer one. I remember blinking back tears when he said that. Because nobody had ever framed it that way before. The timing worked out too perfectly. The board wanted fresh blood. The exec team was cracking under pressure. And Bryant? He had no idea what was coming. I still remember the boardroom the day Carter made the announcement. It was the firm's quarterly leadership summit. Everyone was there. Bryant was in a navy blazer he thought made him look like a visionary. He leaned over to Mina and whispered something. I saw her stiffen. Carter walked in with two people behind him. I was one of them. His speech was short. Direct. No ceremony. I'm stepping back as CEO, he said. It's time. This company needs someone who knows strategy, who understands systems and people. Someone who's been part of our world, but isn't corrupted by its bad habits. There was a ripple of murmurs around the table. Bryant leaned forward. Smiled a little, hopeful. I could see it in his eyes. He thought this might be his moment. That's when Carter gestured toward me. Allow me to introduce your new CEO. I stepped forward. The room went dead silent. Bryant's face went slack. Then flushed. Then pale. I scanned the room slowly. Locked eyes with him. And smiled. Hi, I said simply. Good to see familiar faces. Applause broke out, not from everyone, but from enough people to make it sting. Mina? She clapped the hardest. The meeting ended. Bryant didn't speak to me until the hallways cleared. Then he followed me into the corner conference room like a man possessed. What the HLL is going on? He hissed, shutting the door behind him. I turned to face him. Calm. Unshaken. I'm the new CEO, I said. Carter brought me in to fix things. You, he said, sputtering. You haven't even been part of this industry for, 10 years? I just tilted my head. Funny. That didn't stop you from using all my notes when you pitched the DeLuca account. He went quiet. I'm good at what I do, Bryant. You just never wanted to admit it. And now, well, Now you don't really have a say, do you? He stared at me like he didn't recognize the person standing in front of him. Why didn't you tell me? You mean before or after you called me the charity case? He flinched. I didn't know you were there. You said it because it's how you think, I said. That's the part that matters. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. Is this about revenge? No, I said. It's about reclamation. He didn't quit immediately. For about 2 weeks, he tried to play nice. Brought me coffee once, left a card on my desk with some half-assed line about starting fresh. I ignored it. I didn't fire him, I didn't have to. I started making changes that left no room for mediocrity or ego. I brought in new leadership, restructured departments, reopened 3 dormant accounts through my own network. I held my first executive strategy session 2 weeks in. Everyone came in prepared. Brian tried to interrupt me twice. I shut him down both times. Afterward, Mina found me in my office. You know he's not going to last, she said. He can't stand not being the smartest person in the room. He never was, I replied. Back at home, the tension hit a boiling point. He came home one night drunk, probably from drinks with his old work buddies. Slammed the door louder than necessary. You think you're so much better than everyone now, he said, standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. No, I said. I always was. I just finally stopped hiding it. He threw a dish towel across the counter. You're tearing this family apart. You did that when you made me a punchline in front of your team. Silence. He looked at me like he wanted to scream. But he didn't. He just turned and left. Slept in the guest room. A week later, he submitted his resignation. The board accepted it the next morning. After Bryant resigned, things shifted fast. At the office, no one really talked about it out loud, but the atmosphere changed overnight. The tight cliques that had orbited around him started to dissolve. People were cautious, testing the waters with me, waiting to see whether I was going to hold grudges or swing axes. I didn't. Instead, I walked in every day with my sleeves rolled up, listening more than I talked, calling out bad processes without calling out people. I reorganized teams based on skill sets, not loyalty. When I asked for feedback, I meant it. And when someone gave it to me straight, I promoted them. Word spread fast. People started saying things like, it feels different now. And, you actually see us. Which, honestly, felt surreal. I had spent so long being invisible, first by choice, then by habit, that having people suddenly pay attention to what I had to say felt almost unnatural. But I leaned into it. Still, every time I went home, the air felt heavier. The kids noticed first. My son, Devin, came into my room one night after school, hovering in the doorway the way he used to when he was scared of thunderstorms. Is Dad mad at you? He asked. I looked up from my laptop. Why do you ask? He's been weird. Grumpy. He said you pulled something shady at work and now he's jobless. I took a deep breath. That's not what happened. Did you get him fired? No, I said calmly. He chose to leave. Because he didn't like working for me. Devin blinked. Wait, you're his boss? I nodded. I am now. He stood there for a second like he was running calculations in his head. Cool, he finally said, and turned to go. It was a strange moment, funny in a way, but also heartbreaking. Because I realized just how much of my identity I'd hidden, even from my own kids. They knew I used to work in money, but they didn't know what I was capable of. They had no clue who I had been before I bent my life around their father. They were about to find out. Bryant, to his credit, didn't fight dirty. But he didn't exactly take the high road, either. He moved out quietly one weekend while the kids were at their friend's house. No big announcement, no family meeting. Just took half the stuff from the closet, grabbed a few boxes from the office, and left a typed note on the kitchen island like I was his landlord, not his wife. I'm going to stay at a condo near Kenmore for now. We'll figure out a schedule for the kids. I'll be in touch. That was it. No, I'm sorry. No, this isn't what I wanted. Just logistics. I stared at the note for a long time. Then I tossed it in the trash. When the kids came home and saw some of his clothes missing, I sat them down. We're separating, I told them gently. It's not because of you. And it doesn't mean your dad doesn't love you. But things between us haven't been working for a long time. My daughter, Willa, cried. Devin got really quiet. I don't understand, she sniffled. You guys didn't even fight. I wrapped an arm around her. Sometimes the worst things happen in silence, sweetie. But I promise, we're going to be okay. And I meant it. Even if it hurt. Over the next few weeks, I started to settle into my new rhythm. Work was demanding, exhilarating, exhausting, consuming. I was pulling 12-hour days again, flying to client meetings, doing late-night Zoom calls with West Coast partners. But the difference now was, I loved it. Every second. I wasn't doing this to prove anything anymore. I was doing it because it lit me up. But the emotional fallout? That part hit in waves. There were moments when I'd be brushing my teeth and suddenly get overwhelmed with sadness, not just over Bryant, but over me. Over all the years I lost to someone who saw me as a sidekick. Over all the dinners where I'd bite my tongue, the parties where he'd joke about me, retiring early, the nights I stayed up building him PowerPoint decks while he slept peacefully. I think what hurt the most wasn't that he belittled me. It was that I let him. One night, about 6 weeks after he moved out, I got a text from Mina. Mina, heads up, Bryant applied for a VP position at Silver Spring Marketing. That was one of our rival firms. Not huge, but decent enough to keep him in the game. Me, let him. I don't wish him ill. Mina, want to know something interesting? Their founder's wife is on our board, and she's friends with Carter. Just saying. I stared at the screen for a minute, unsure whether to laugh or wince. Then I just typed, he'll find out soon enough, and left it at that. A week later, I ran into him. I was walking out of Tad in Back Bay, coffee in hand, and there he was, standing on the sidewalk like fate had decided I needed one last test. He looked surprised to see me. A little thinner. Pale. Hey, he said, awkwardly. I nodded. Bryant. Long pause. You look good, he said, like the words didn't come naturally. Thanks. I heard about the Boston tech merger. That's huge. It is. Another pause. I didn't get the Silver Spring job. Oh! Apparently someone on the board raised concerns. He watched me for a moment. Did you say something? No, I said honestly. I didn't have to. He looked down at his shoes. You know, I used to think you were playing small because you couldn't handle the heat. I raised my eyebrows. And now, he met my eyes. Now I think, maybe you were just giving me space I never earned. There it was. The closest thing to an apology I'd ever get. I didn't respond. Just took a sip of my coffee and turned to leave. He called out, you were always better than me. I just didn't want to see it. I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. It's wild how quickly people adjust to a new version of you once you stop apologizing for existing. The week after I saw Bryant outside of Tat, I finalized my legal filings for the divorce. I didn't ask for alimony. I didn't demand child support either. I knew he'd try to spin it as me being generous or taking the high road, but the truth was, I didn't need anything from him anymore. Not financially, not emotionally, not symbolically. What I did need was peace. He tried to stall the process with minor negotiations, quibbling over furniture, arguing over visitation schedules, but I held the line. Calm, unemotional, unmoved. I'm not interested in arguing, I told my lawyer, who was an old colleague from my consulting days. I want this done. Clean. Fast. Zero drama. And we got it. 6 months from filing, the divorce was finalized. No messy courtroom showdown. No screaming fights. Just signatures and silence. But that wasn't the real victory. That came later. About 3 months post-divorce, I got an invite to speak at a Women in Leadership event hosted at the Seaport Innovation Center. Nothing flashy, just a small panel of executives discussing resilience and reinvention. I almost said no. I was busy. Exhausted. Still settling into the emotional reality of being single after 17 years of marriage. But something inside me nudged me forward. You need to own this, Tara said when I told her about the event. You didn't just survive this, you transformed. Don't hide it. So I said yes. The panel was on a Thursday night. My kids were with Bryant for the weekend, so I didn't need to rush home after work. I wore a navy blazer with a white silk shell and my old favorite heels, the ones I used to wear in my consulting days before I traded stilettos for soccer cleats and school pickup lines. The room wasn't huge, but it was packed. Women from all ages and industries. The moderator introduced me last. Former consultant, current CEO of Pemberley plus Fox, mother of 2, and one of Boston's most unexpected executive comebacks of the year, please welcome M. The applause startled me. It wasn't just polite. It was genuine. I sat down, took the mic, and for the first time in years, I told my story out loud. The real story. Not just the facts, the feeling. The fear of becoming invisible. The pain of betrayal. The loneliness of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. The quiet power of reclaiming your identity. And when I told them about that moment at the retreat, how Bryant called me a charity case, and how no one pushed back, every woman in that room tensed. I realized then, I said, steady and clear, that the only way to stop being underestimated is to stop giving people permission to do it. Another wave of applause. Longer this time. When the panel ended, people came up to thank me. Young women just starting out. Moms who'd left the workforce and were afraid to go back. A VP from a tech company who whispered, "I've been living your story in real time." I left that night buzzing with adrenaline, hope, clarity. And that was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about liberation. A few weeks later, I got word that Bryant had accepted a position at a much smaller agency in Providence. Not C-suite, not VP. Account director. A step down, technically, but it looked like he was trying to rebuild. And honestly, good for him. I didn't want him ruined. I just wanted him out of my way. The kids adjusted too. Willa started referring to the split in practical terms: mom's house and dad's condo. Devin was quieter about it but seemed okay. We were making it work. One Sunday, while Bryant was dropping the kids off, he lingered at the door. "I saw the recording from your panel," he said, eyes unreadable. "It popped up on LinkedIn." I didn't answer. He swallowed. "You were incredible." I nodded. "Thanks. I wish I'd known. All of that." "You did," I said gently. "You just didn't care." He exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I guess you're right." And then he did something I wasn't expecting. He looked at me, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with something close to regret. "I was wrong," he said. "About so much." I let that hang in the air. "You were," I said, "but at least now you know." He nodded. No excuses. No defense. Just a quiet moment of reckoning. Then he left. That was the last real conversation we ever had. Fast forward to now, almost a year after it all began. Work is thriving. The company's grown. We landed a major new client last quarter and just opened a satellite office in Chicago. Mina is now my second in command. My board? Fully diversified. And the culture? Healthy, transparent, collaborative. At home, I'm still learning. I'm dating slowly, focusing on being present for my kids, figuring out what I like again. I started painting on weekends. Joined a book club. Even went hiking with Tara last month and didn't die on the mountain like I feared. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, when the house is still and the world stops spinning, I think back to that one moment in Vermont. That careless laugh. That casual cruelty. And how it led me, step by painful step, to this version of myself I never knew existed. Not just strong. Not just successful. But seen. Fully. Finally. Completely.